the central town square right here. I believe it was a large Viking-looking guy. There was a really short, professional-looking assassin type, and then a wizard in like bright purple robes. They took off towards the north of town. You guys had just come up with a plan on where to send your people. One of your groups, a few of your men were dispatched out to meet Kalina the Elder and try and persuade her that there was something crazy going on. Second group went towards the leaders of the city to try and convince them to evacuate the city. And you guys were going to go ahead and pursue that on your own. Second group went towards the leaders of the city to try and convince them to evacuate the city. And you guys were going to go ahead and. So you begin moving through town, and as you do, you notice that people keep moving, several streets over towards the east. There's some sort of ruckus going on. So you begin. If you listen closely, it sounds like there's some sort of dignitary that's shown up in town. You notice that people keep moving. Several streets over towards the east. There's some sort of ruckus going on. So you begin. If you listen closely, it sounds like there's some sort of dignitary that's shown up in town. You notice that people keep moving. Evan, how are you doing? There's some sort of ruckus going on. So you begin. If you listen closely, it sounds like there's some sort of dignitary that's shown up in town. Yeah, we decided to start without you because you logged in like Evan, 54 minutes ago or something. We're like, okay, he's here, but he's not really here. If you listen closely, it sounds like there's some sort of dignitary that's shown up in town. Yeah, we decided to start without you because you logged in like Evan, 54 minutes ago or something. We're like, okay, no, it's cool. He's here, but he's not really here. So let's go over like the quick version of what you missed last time, which would be like what 4 weeks ago. We decided to start without you because you logged in like Evan, 54 minutes ago or something. We're like, okay. No, so last game when you were there, we were in the Halfling Village. So essentially, right after that, we left the Halfling Village heading south. So last game quickly out, we were in the Halfling Village. So essentially, right after that, okay, we left the Halfling Village. So we left the Halfling Village heading south, and very quickly after that happened, they noticed that it seemed like the surroundings started changing. The road seemed to be like a lot further away than what it seemed to be. And then after a few more minutes, they were sort of in like a blank open space. So sort of like space had started changing and morphing outside of them. There was an old lady there who said that there were some creatures that had attacked and stolen her child. And these guys defeated a couple of weird interdimensional type dog creatures. Shortly after that, the woman said that they needed to take her with them, and she said it in an odd enough way that it tipped the guys off. And as they started talking to her, they realized that there was something really, really odd about her, and she actually revealed her true form eventually. She was a horrible succubus from between the dimensions. She actually wound up taking control of everyone in the party in turn. Unfortunately, our friend Cathan wound up dying yet again, only to be brought back later. But they fought her very, very hard fight. Eventually, she escaped without them really defeating her. There had actually been a prediction that from Alina that the last of the artifacts would be brought up in like 3 days, and they weren't really sure how. You guys weren't really sure how you're going to make it. Oh, I guess I should mention that during this fight, you were drug off into. I guess I should have mentioned that first. You were drug off into the darkness, and they haven't seen you since. So you literally just disappeared. They didn't know where you were. During this fight, you were drug off into. But they wound up just right outside of Stormport. They got inside the city. Quickly met up with with Scott's captain. Um, Scott gave them some information about odd things that had been happening. There's someone who's been setting up an archaeological dig just north of the town. There have been rumors that the Svenzik leader, who's one of the seven, has actually been marching his army towards here, and nobody's really sure why. Some people are kind of in a panic about it. There's been blights and sickness, but he was essentially leaving. So his captain was taking off and leaving because he didn't have the strength to stay and fight, and he needed some men to return to warn Doric about what was happening here. But he was essentially leaving. So his captain was taking off. Scott also found out that his like special ability. He found out that he had an amulet that can actually allow him to move between places and possibly even dimensions on the full moon. So that's something that you guys can use in the future. After that, walking around the city, and whenever you go and join, you can kind of see like the rough city we have. They found a large, oddly shaped statue. After like examining it, they realized that it's kind of the same odd material that the previous artifacts were made from. For instance, like you can't pour water on it. You can't really touch it. And they were examining that and kind of coming up with a plan on what to do for instance, like you can't to take care of the situation. Scott and Jeremy basically decided to split their people into three groups. Scott and Jeremy were actually going to head towards the north, where the archaeological dig was happening. They also sent people into the direction of Kalina the Elder. She's supposed to show up very soon, basically to try and convince her to come help and convince her what's going on. And also they sent people to the leaders of Stormport to try and get them to evacuate the town. And then at the very, very end, after they were examining the statues, they noticed three people. One really large Viking-looking guy, a mage in like really immaculate robes, and a shorter man in all leather armor, like decked out in knives, who had been watching them, and they just sort of calmly rode off towards the north after they were spotted. Mage in like really immaculate robes, and that's where we picked it up. Basically, shorter man in all leather armor, like decked out in knives, who had been watching them, and they just sort of calmly rode off towards the north after they were spotted. Mage in like really immaculate robes, and that's where we picked it up. Basically, shorter man in all leather armor, like decked out in knives, who had been watching them, and they just sort of calmly rode off towards the north after they were spotted. Mage in like really immaculate robes. Yeah, he is. We'll introduce him back in a second. Like decked out in knives, who had been watching them, and they just sort of calmly rode off towards the north after they were spotted. Mage in like really immaculate robes. Yeah, he is. We'll introduce him back in a second. Like decked out in knives, who had been watching them, and they just sort of calmly rode off towards the north after they were spotted. Yeah, he is. We'll introduce him back in a second. Yeah, he is. We'll introduce him. Give me 1 second. Trying to find some notes real quick. Yeah, he is. We'll introduce him. Give me 1 second. Trying to find some notes real quick. Yeah, he is. We'll introduce him. Give me 1 second. Trying to find some notes real quick. Give me 1 second. Trying to find some notes real quick. Give me 1 second. Trying to find some notes real quick. So I hate to admit this, but did anybody write down the Dark Dwarf leader's name? So I hate to admit this, but did anybody write down the Dark Dwarf leader's name? Evan, you didn't happen to write it down? Yeah, I had the same problem. My hard drive died too. Dark Dwarf leader's name. Evan, you didn't happen to write it down? I need to just start using like Google Docs or something for my notes. Yeah, I had the same problem. My hard drive died too. Yeah, I could just use Obsidian Portal, that's true. Evan, you didn't happen to write it down? I need to just start using like Google Docs or something for my notes. Yeah, I had the same problem. My hard drive died too. Yeah. Okay, I'm pretty sure it was like Morgok, but I can't remember exactly. So as you guys move into like an opening, we'll say like right here. You see the Dark Iron or the Dark Dwarf. So as you guys move into entourage has essentially arrived in town, although there's not very many of them left. It looks like they've suffered some other kind of attack on the way. Their king is there. He's surrounded by a couple of his most loyal guards, but there's really just like a ragtag band of maybe like 10 or 15 there. He's cut up quite a bit. His face is cut up. He's got some gashes in his side. And his people are kind of like flanking around him, essentially like protecting. Quite a bit. His face is cut up. He's got some gashes in his side. Fulren is not there. His people are kind of like flanking around him. By the way, that's what they said happened to you last time. They said that you got taken back by them and you had to spend like a week going over ballads again. By the way, that's what they said happened to you last time. They said that you got taken back by them and you had to spend like... So one of his men notices you and he doesn't approach you directly, but he turns around to the king and points you out. And then he yells out. So one of his men notices you and he doesn't approach you directly, but he yells out for you guys to come over to him and points you out. And then he yells out. So one of his men notices you and he doesn't approach you directly, but he yells out for you guys to come over to him and points you out. And then he yells out. So one of his men notices you and he doesn't approach you directly, but he yells out for you guys to come over to him and points you out. And then he yells out. So one of his men notices you and he doesn't approach you directly, but he yells out for you guys to come over to him. So Kellic and Alina stay back, because as you remember, Kellic did not really like the Dark Dwarves very much. So you guys go ahead and approach him on your own. As you get close to him, he starts looking behind you, trying to figure out where Fulren is. And he says, "Where is your slave?" Approach him on your own. As you get close to him, he starts looking behind you, trying to figure out where. He raises one little eyebrow. Caught between dimensions. He looks at his men, and they all just kind of shrug, like they have no idea what you're talking about. He starts looking behind you, trying to figure out where. He raises one little eyebrow. Caught between dimensions. He looks at his men, and they all just kind of shrug, like they have no idea what you're talking about. He starts looking behind you, trying to figure out where. Well, we barely made it here, attacked by the ragged Vanzik. He looks around like at the Viking people, kind of sort of spits in their direction. Savages, all of them, no honor. Ragged Vanzik. He looks around like at the Viking people, kind of sort of spits in their direction. Savages, all of them, no honor. Okay, now he looks furious. How dare you insult me? Come over here, boy. Kind of sort of spits in their direction. Savages, all of them, no honor. Okay, now he looks furious. How dare you insult me? Come over here, boy. Kind of sort of spits in their direction. Savages, all of them, no honor. Okay, now he looks furious. How dare you insult me? Listen here, elf. I am the king of all dwarves in the north, and you will address me with respect when you talk to me. Okay, now he looks furious. Listen here, elf. I am the king of all dwarves in the north, and you will address me with respect when you talk to me. Okay, now he looks furious. How dare you insult me? Listen here, elf. I am the king of all dwarves in the north, and you will address me with men, respect when you talk kill to me. Them. Listen here, elf. I am the king of all dwarves in the north, and you will address me with men. Well, his men don't immediately move to attack. They sort of look at the amount of people you have, and then if you peek behind you, you can see that there's a bit of a crowd that's already gathered there. Well, his men don't immediately move to attack. The fact that he essentially insulted all of them hasn't really endeared them to him. And then if you peek behind you, you can see that there's a bit of a crowd that's already gathered there. Well, his men don't immediately move to attack. The fact that he essentially insulted all of them hasn't really endeared them to him. And then if you peek behind you, you can see that there's a bit of a crowd that's already gathered there. Well, his men don't immediately move to attack. The fact that he essentially insulted all of them hasn't really endeared them to him. And then if you peek behind you, you can see that there's a bit of a crowd that's already gathered there. Well, his men don't immediately move to attack. The fact that he essentially insulted. That's already gathered there. Well, his men don't immediately move to attack. The fact that he essentially insulted. I think Scott's determined to create like an international incident, isn't he? I think Scott's determined to create like an international incident, isn't he? He looks around angry, spits on the ground, and finally his face sort of softens. I apologize. Kieran, is it? He looks around angry, spits on the ground, and finally his face sort of softens. You're not Kieran. I apologize. Kieran, is it? God, it's definitely been too long since we played. You don't even know who your character is. Spits on the ground, and finally his face sort of softens. You're not Kieran. I apologize. Kieran, is it? God, it's definitely been too long since we played. You don't even know who your character is. Spits on the ground, and finally his face sort of softens. You're not Kieran. I apologize. When you find the slave, bring him back. I could perhaps have use of him. It's definitely been too long since we played. You don't even know who your character is. Spits on the ground, and finally his face sort of softens. You're not Kieran. I apologize. When you find the slave, bring him back. I could perhaps have use of him. It's definitely been too long since we played. You don't even know who your character is. I told you, attacked. When you find the slave, bring him back. I could perhaps have use of him. By the armies of Svenzik himself. They are marching here as we speak. I told you, attacked. When you find the slave, bring him back. I could perhaps have use of him. As you travel further north through the city, you get to an area where there's a makeshift hospital. Um, as you walk by, someone catches your eye. Very, very beaten up. Uh, Looking like he's nearly to death, missing all of his equipment. You see Fulren laying on the ground. He's currently unconscious. Yes, he's been treated by some herbalists essentially, but it doesn't look like there's anyone trained in magical healing or even in like advanced medicine. Okay, he slowly comes up. Uh, we'll go ahead and say he's going to be at full health. He just had to make the effort. Um, Fulren, as you awaken, uh, you start trying to remember exactly what's happened to you. Uh, you look around, not knowing entirely where you are, but you do see your two companions, well, your four companions there, as well as several of the guard that Scott had earlier. Alina has gone over and started talking to some of the herbalists. It's not immediately visible. Um, when Alina walks back, she says that they were all essentially found in a small town, several hours away. They were all they basically just showed up there. They're all from different places throughout the countryside, and they were all just sort of deposited back here. There's a bunch of equipment that was gathered, and it's in a shack to the just very very close. So you can go look through it to see if you can find Fulren's equipment. Some people were dead. Some people were in very very ill health like him. Um, but they all just sort of showed up without explanation. Correct, said Helena. They brought you back here in carts, but we were hundreds of miles away. We were days and days journeys. Uh, as well as some of these other people. Some of these other people came from weeks to the east. Well, once you were found in the small town where you just showed up, they brought you back here for treatment. Yeah, you really don't have any memory of what happened. Essentially, after you left the halfling village, you don't really remember anything after that. So you guys going to continue heading north? Okay. After after about a half hour more of walking, you've reached the outskirts of the city. You don't have to go far until you crest a hill, and then looking down, you see the where the archaeology dig is going on. Um, it's not a large area, but they've actually dug out a fairly large portion of it in a short time. There's a pit probably 20 feet by 20 feet, going down about 10 feet deep at this point. Uh, there's a large amount of manpower. It looks like they've gone and taken some slaves, and they're essentially spending lots of money to get this dug. Um, you see the three that you saw earlier talking to a man that Jeremy immediately recognized and trusts. I'm just kidding. You notice Bosco, um, and then as you're reliving these events in the future, you recognize immediately that his horse is very very familiar. It's a tall, beautiful looking horse. When he moves his head to the side, his mane just billows in the wind. It is in fact the legendary horse. So you guys are basically looking down on the site from a hill. You haven't really been spotted or anything yet. So you absolutely have the element of surprise. Um, so there's several of his ruffian types around, but also it looks like three really skilled people, um, and then Bosco himself, and then probably about 20 to 25 people who are digging and moving earth at this point. Looking down into the pit, you can kind of see that it looks like they've maybe found something, but you can't actually see what it is from the hilltop. Well, do you guys remember Bosco's original story? Yeah, I remember his daughter was sick, and he sent you to try and figure out what it was. Um, from his perspective, it's like you never really came back from that. Essentially, he doesn't know what happened to you. Of course, you don't know what's happened to him in the meantime. You never really did. He never really said what happened to her. You were just supposed to go uh, try and help find something that would keep her from being sick. Exactly. So he's in the time being moved on. Uh, it depends. Yes, you're going to be outnumbered. Fighters. There's three people who they saw earlier who look like they're very skilled, but then he also has like a bunch of his other like thug types that you fought before. So we'll say there's probably 8 to 10 thugs, three probably skilled professionals, Bosco himself, and then if you want to count the slaves that they have, it's hard to say how they would fall in a fight, but there's probably 20 or 25 of them. So you're incredibly outnumbered. I think Scott, you if you split up your group by three, you had about 25 people, so you maybe have like 8 to 10 with you. Well, plus I guess you have Alina and Kellic too. So let's say you guys are actually like kind of standing up on a hill here at the south, um, looking down. Over here is where they started digging everything up, where this little pit is. If we need to do combat, I'll start putting people out around the pits here. So what do you guys think? Approach him or attack him, or what do you want to do? No, you don't have any idea yet why he's digging this up. Okay, so you're going with the, hey Bosco, we're here to talk to you to report in. Okay, you guys begin riding down from the hill, pretty obviously, not trying to hide yourself or anything. Um, as you head down, uh, Bosco notices you, and he looks like really surprised. He starts talking to his guys and pointing at you, and then they kind of shake their heads yes. As you get closer, nobody draws any swords or anything. You can get to within, like 10 or 15 feet. You notice Bosco really doesn't look very good. He has like black circles like all around his eyes. He seems to have in just a couple of weeks lost like a lot of weight. Um, he seems to maybe be dehydrated. Looks like he hasn't eaten. He's kind of got like a crazy twitchy look to him now. He kind of looks back and forth to all of you, almost like he's scared to see you there. All right, as you get that far away, he like holds out his hand and says, "Stop! Don't you all come any closer." He looks almost like he's a little bit fearful. Who are you? But there's no way you could have come back from that. He now starts like walking over like a little bit closer and sort of looks at you all in turn. I don't know you, but the rest of these. Did you turn? He kind of looks like he doesn't really want to answer that. My daughter, she turned too. I had to lock her up, but I'm gonna fix her. Don't worry. Don't worry, we're gonna fix it. But you. He like sort of like gets really close to you guys now as if he's like really inspecting. You guys look okay, don't you? Yeah, you look okay. Then all of a sudden he almost looks happy that you're there. You actually survived it. How did you survive it? Because I sent someone else to watch you and they said that everybody there died. Everyone in that village died and we couldn't even get the artifact. If only we had the artifact, I might be able to cure my daughter. He sort of like wanders off like in his thoughts. Wait. Do you know who took the artifact? You guys actually still have the artifact. You remember that, right? Yeah, they actually dropped the other one at the halfling village too. Like it wasn't of any use to them. So you should have both of them. I don't know, it's the dreams I've been having. The dreams since a few weeks ago, before I met you even. They said that they could cure. If only I found all four of the artifacts and put them together, everything would be okay for my daughter. You can't get any worse. Do you understand what she is now? Do you even have any idea what she is? No, no, that's not right. It can't be right. Look, look, we got another artifact here. Just come look at it. He motions you down into the pit. As you get to the bottom, this one's much larger than the other two that you've seen previously. You can kind of only see the top of it, but it looks quite a bit like the one in town, the large statue. Um, it's not going to be as large as that, but it's still partially covered. But there's some sort of like bulbous type edge to it, and then what appears to be like a tentacle coming out of it. Look, can't you feel it? There's something special about this one. Look, this one's got to be it. It's really, really important. Hey, hey, wait a second. You guys know what happened to the artifacts, don't you? Yeah, you have to. You notice that behind you, his guys are sort of like closing in from behind. Just tell me what happened to the other two. If we put them together, we can cure my daughter, we can cure everybody, we can make all this go away, we can make it all like it was before I started doing those spells, before those things came and started talking to me in my dreams. They... You can't even see them. In my dreams, when I try and talk to them, they're just constantly moving all around me. It's like he's got his hands above his head now, like gesturing like at the stars. It's like they're moving up there in the stars and underground, and they're everywhere all at once. I think they might be angels. But what do you think they are? He looks like he hadn't even considered that before. Well, they could be. That's very interesting. He sort of like just sits down on the ground and he looks defeated. You, he points at the other mage. Bring me the book. His his mage that he has for hire brings over a book that's it's bound in really really old leather. It has some really odd looking symbols on the front. Uh, Looking at it, you can tell that there's something really wrong with this book. I found this spell book 8 months ago. I wanted to be the best mage in the entire world, so I started reading through the spells. And I started doing some of the spells. And that's when these things came to me in my dreams. See, and that my daughter started getting sick. But then they told me that they could cure it if I just brought these together. But they said that, you know, maybe you're right. So he kind of gets up with new determination. So how can we destroy this thing? They're coming here? He just said they're coming here? Alright, I've messed up. I messed up bad. I don't even like to admit that. But what should we do now? I can keep my men here to make sure nobody else comes in, but it would take a long time to cover this back up. We can get started, though. You, men, start covering this back up. You know the last one. It's in Stormport. It's this big statue right in the middle of the city. In my dreams, people saw it and they started building the city around it because they knew there was something special about it. What do you think would happen if we brought all the artifacts together? Wait, you've seen the actual angels? I mean, the Velsaku? I'd like to see them, he said. So I'll have my people start trying to bury this again for now, but which way do we go? So one of your soldiers comes up and says that he's heard that Svenzik is currently just like a short march outside of town, like northeast of town. Um, he's just has his people sort of in waiting position. Um, the intelligence that he's heard is that he has probably 1,000 soldiers at his command. All right, I'll come. I have to make up for what I've done. You're such a sucker. Even after he told you he basically unleashed evil upon the world. He's kind of dumb. All right, I need a quick 5 minute break. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. All right, so you guys head east towards where Svenzik's people are supposed to be. Um, as you get close, it's fairly easy to spot them. He has people stretched out in a long line, almost as if they're ready to march on the city to attack it. Um, he has his people in different units, uh, stretching out for about a half mile. Behind that, you can see that there is a couple of tents set up, flying the flags of the Vanzik. Um, as you approach, his people basically just stay in rank. You can get as close as you need to them, and they essentially pay you no attention. They actually don't respond to you. They all appear to be like incredibly disciplined. They're all standing exactly the same way. Uh, just looking forward, ready to await commands. Okay, you guys move in between the different units towards the tent that's set up. As you get close, I mean, there's not even like any entourage. There's essentially just the one large tent, and and no one's even guarding it. Come inside, friends. You hear in like a loud booming voice. Did the handout just pop up for you guys? Okay, as you walk inside the tent, this is like a very large tent, so it's like 30 feet wide, um, and then probably 20 feet high. It's very sparsely decorated inside. There's some armor racks and a throne that's made completely of bones of some sort of large creature. On top of it sits this man. Uh, right down next to him, on each side of his throne, there is an axe on each side. You know from legend that those are his two axes, which give him powers. Um, he actually like radiates like a huge aura of almost like threat from him. You can tell like just being around him that if at any point he wanted to, he could attack and kill everyone. Even though he seems very, very calm, you just seem there's a very, very tense feel as soon as you get near him. Come inside, friends. And he is there completely by himself. He has no associates, no guards, nothing. He literally sits on his own. Doric, I have not seen my friend in many, many years. Welcome, Kieran Tassarian. Who are your friends? So Kellic is the big barbarian. Uh, Behind you, he looks like he's like in heaven. He's seen his idol for the first time. He's like can barely contain himself. Looking over at Alina though, she's like hanging back almost towards the entrance. Um, Kellic has bowed down just like Jeremy did, but Alina seems very wary of the whole situation. Is just kind of hanging back. How do you do? And he just sort of trails off, um, almost like he doesn't want to be in the same room with him. What has brought you here, friends? He lowers his head down into his hand like he's thinking. Indeed, my fears are true. It seems the Velsaku have returned. How could this have happened? This is much the way that it happened thousands of years ago. I believe we have a chance to destroy these artifacts, but it will not be easy. Once we start trying to bring them together to destroy them in one place, horrible creatures will start emerging. You see, the artifacts will gain power as they are close to each other. However, we will only be able to destroy them if they're all together. You're talking about Kalina the Elder. Kalina? This must be her time of the year to come here. Unfortunately, her mind is broken. We must send her away. Although she survived the fight with the Velsaku, in the final battle, she was torn from us, he says. Indeed, I understand, Chthon, but if she were to see these creatures again, I'm afraid it would tear her apart. I owe it to her to make sure that that does not happen. Do we know what direction she comes from? I will send one of my men to make sure that she turns away. Indeed, you will not. Let us go about our task. You said that you have 2 of the artifacts? And you, Bosco. How large is the other artifact? He starts describing how it hasn't really been fully excavated yet, but it should be something that can be taken in by like a horse. I will send some of my people to finish the excavation. How skilled are your people in combat, Kieran? Indeed. Have you slain one? Good. That means there's still hope for you. He yells outside for someone to bring some in, and then some parchment and ink is brought to you. Very well. My men will take these orders now. They should have finished the excavating this by nightfall tomorrow. At that point, we will begin our march to the city. Understand, friends, it will be as if we are going to war with darkness when we travel in. As I said, the horrors will become more and more intense as we get closer. We have not yet. You perhaps have time to return and try and finish that task. I believe I would like to keep these two with me. They are my people. He points at Kellic and Alina. Kellic is like basically jumping up and down, ready to stay, but Alina looks kind of frightened. Kieran, I don't know what it is. I've never seen the Lord, but I just don't feel right about any of this. I wish I could tell you. I wish I would have one of my visions now, but everything has gotten very, very cloudy. 3 days ago, I thought I knew exactly what would happen, and now I just don't know. Do you want me to go away while you have the player conference? Yeah, yeah. She pretty much just wanders the countryside, immortal, basically retelling the stories. That's Bosco. Okay, are we going to head back into town, or where are you going to go to try and meet up with her? Okay. As you travel back into town, you you talk to the guards at the entrance to the city. They don't know that she has arrived. Um, However, you do spot one of your soldiers in the street as you pass, and he tells you that they were successful in intercepting her, and they've actually taken her to the inn that your commander was at earlier. Okay, as you enter the inn, your men have essentially sealed it off again. This time, instead of trying to make it look like there's any sort of like active front, they've kicked out everyone. Uh, and then in the downstairs, you have several of your men standing guard, and then there's a beautiful but gray-haired, uh, elderly-looking elven lady sitting by herself at a table. She looks kind of like she's concerned, uh, like she's being held against her will. When you walk in, she looks a little bit frightened, but then she notices you, and that you're a fellow elf, and she seems to brighten up. She stands up. Fellow elf friend, my name is Kalina. No, no, no kneeling. Stand, stand. Please, please, sit, friends. Sit. I was just about to order some tea. Would you all like any? My dear Kieran, there are dark things in this world, but there is no way the Velsaku are back. We sealed them away forever. Great sacrifices were made during the final battle. There is no way that they could have returned. I have no doubt, she says, reaching out and like grabbing your hand, that you have seen horrible demonic creatures. That does not mean that they're the Valsaku. You say you say Svenzik is here. He was always a bit of a hothead, she says. She starts drinking her tea as if she's not very concerned. That gets her attention a little bit, although she looks at them for a moment and then sort of looks away. What are those? But you don't understand. How long has it been since you've heard the old stories, Kieran? But I'm telling you, it is impossible for creatures outside our own, from the heavens or the hells, to come here. It's been a very, very long time since I've done magic or been in touch with magic. You have to understand, I'm just an old woman who wanders around retelling the stories. That's all that I have left. When we sealed the worlds, there were many, many creatures that remained here, but not the Velsaku. Those we drove out first, as well as the angels that came to defeat them. They are all gone. Maybe you found demons, ones that remain from the time of the wars. Maybe you found something else. But they're not Velsaku. I, I'm tired. I cannot retell the whole story tonight. I'm sorry, this simply cannot be what you think it is. She considers that for a minute. I will agree that there is something bad happening here. Yes, yes, people will tend to listen to me. I will help you evacuate the city. She picks up her cloak and her staff and she walks outside. When she does, people start pointing at her because the sight of an elf is very rare, especially one with gray hair as old as she is. And she starts speaking up. People of Stormport, a great evil is gathering here today. We must leave this city. We must leave it, for you are all in grave danger. She begins talking for a few more minutes and starts telling people to essentially start spreading that story through the city to everyone else. Where will you go now? She asks you. Do you guys want to try and accomplish anything else, or are we gonna wait around for the artifacts to arrive there? So right after you guys discuss your next move, uh, and are getting ready to tell her, she actually screams like a piercing, like horrible wailing scream, and then and points to something behind you. As you turn, you see what seems to be almost a shadow, like move away very very quickly. You actually, well, go ahead and make a what kind of roll is it again? Yeah, make a perception check. You want to try, Evan? So Scott, you rolled the best. You almost thought you saw uh, a person standing there, just sort of like peering around the side of the building. But then, almost as soon as you could register that there was someone there, they immediately vanished. Um, if you try and pursue them, like it's essentially as if they disappeared into thin air. That that can't be. Come back inside. She sits down, starts trying to drink her tea. This time, like her hand is shaking. Our betrayer, he is here. Let me tell you this part of the story. After we had fought the Velsaku for 100 years, we had driven them back to the north, to the horrible, horrible structure called Zanzamak, which they had created, the Velsaku and the other fell races had created as their holdout. We seven, as powerful as we were, getting the blessing of Ersona, the divine goddess that came to us, even we were not powerful enough to defeat all the creatures. One of our number, Sentosh, he led the way into the castle. He found a way into the fortress that would let us get past everything. We thought we had been blessed. But then as soon as we were inside, we realized he had actually betrayed us to the Velsaku themselves. It was only when Ursonu herself sacrificed herself, getting rid of the Velsaku and sealing them off, that we were able to defeat it. It took sealing the angels from us. And Sentosh, we killed him and his body disintegrated that day, but he's here. I saw him. I don't know how he could have returned, but he is here. I I don't know what to believe, but I have to go. I have to leave this city now. I can't be here. He'll try and kill us all again. Look at me. I'm an old woman. I can't help you now. My powers were gone long ago. She just looks at you and starts trying to walk out the inn. I fought my fight. This is your fight. And then she actually does cast some magic. She alters her image to become like a nondescript human female and slips out of the inn quickly. So you guys are gonna head back out north from town to Svenzik. As you're moving towards the edge of the city, um, you notice that there's some people that are trying to start leaving the city, but in all, it seems like they're doing so at a very slow pace. The word may have spread that Kaluna was there and told them to leave, but no one seems to be taking it very seriously. In fact, there seems to be kind of a lethargy passing over the entire city. You yourselves even start to wonder if you really need to walk all the way back out to the north part of the city. You might just wait there and see what happens. You don't need to really go back and talk to Svenzik. No, no. If you guys recognize what it is, pretty obvious. You can definitely try and resist it. Let's go ahead and make some will saves. So Kieran and Cathan, you guys seem okay. You resist it. However, you notice that Foreman sort of wanders over to a pub and sits down and starts trying to order a drink. So right then, you hear some screaming from an alley not too far away. Just a second, getting the map all set up. Who is Baltoris, by the way? I'm having a little trouble with the map, I'm sorry. I'm having trouble, like, dragging people out. Alright, there we go. So this is essentially the site that you find when you come around the corner. A girl has just run past you. She doesn't seem to be affected by the general malaise that's going on. She's very, very scared because you see this site. So there's a man on the ground. He's still alive. There are two creatures that are eating him while he's alive. Um, they're they're large red demons. They're not a type that you've seen before. Um, but they're essentially eating the man alive. He doesn't really seem at all concerned with it though. He kind of keeps looking back and forth at them, maybe kind of quizzically, but he's not trying to stop them. He's not trying to fight, anything like that. There's a few other people sort of wandering around, but they're not really paying any attention, as if it doesn't really concern them. Can you guys check and see if you can control your characters? Alright, good. Everybody is full strength. Florwin really rolled a 2? Alright, so the demons have actually rolled higher, but they are not really paying attention to you. So we're going to go ahead and go down to Cathon. Okay, so that's interesting. Yeah, the creatures reach down to take another bite out of his leg and his side, and all of a sudden they're repulsed away. At that point, they definitely look up to see what's going on and notice the three of you standing there. All right, Kieran. Yeah, those are both going to hit. So the first attack does a decent amount of damage. He turns around at the last second, and your offhand basically just barely scratches him. Um, they look incredibly angry that you guys have walked upon them, but they also look a little confused that you're even noticing that they're around. Fulrin? Alright, definite hit. So you went after the this first one right here. Alright, this creature, uh, he's going to take a claw attack against each of you, and then he's got a third attack he's going to take against Full Run. He's going to try and bite him. So, first attack on Scott. And that'll miss. Second attack on Evan. This would be a claw attack. Alright, I'm guessing the 23 hits, right? Alright, so he reaches out, getting just past your shield and putting a claw in between some plates in your armor. And then he reaches out to try and bite your arm after you swing your axe or your warhammer past him. And that he gets nowhere near hitting with. Okay, Cthulhu, just then you notice something, some sound behind you. From behind you, you turn around and look over your shoulder, and a horrible dragon form has risen up at the end of the alleyway and is making its way towards you. It's going to attack you in just one moment. And let's say it does have 5 heads like that dragon right there. It moves up and it begins to attack you. All right. Luckily for you, uh, the the dragon reaches out to attack you, and it misses with all of its heads. All right, Cthulhu, your turn. Okay, it looks like you did hit the creature. Yes, it did. All right, Kieran, your turn. What dragon? You don't see a dragon. So you see you see Cathan turned around, and he seems to be striking at something that is just unseen in the air. Uh, I keep wanting to call it a spot check. Give me a what's the check to find things? Perception check. I have to put like a post-it note up that says spot equals perception. You can go and do the same thing, Evan. Well, actually, you should have seen it with the 22. Yeah, so the other demon is, he seems to be concentrating and casting a spell in the direction of Cathan. So the offhand is going to definitely hit him for 6. And then, Jeremy, my player's handbook. Do you know what it takes to retain concentration if you take damage?